Alright, how's everybody doing tonight? God is good.
All the time.
Let me hear it. Thank you. You know, time is a crazy concept, right? 3 years ago, we hosted the first Blackout Experience, and while that was like 1,000 days ago, it feels like it was yesterday. Like, look at this. Look at you. Look at us. Look at what we've done. Look at what we're doing. If you don't feel the energy in this space tonight, the spirit of the ancestors moving through this room, then you need to get your mind checked. We started this program back in 2018 in our cafeteria. And now we're holding down the center of entertainment in Wilmington, Delaware, the Queen. Too, because this wouldn't be possible without one of our queens, Alexis Sims, so I'd like to give her a round of applause. This wouldn't be possible without our students, who from inception to execution have been involved in every part of this production. This doesn't happen without them. It doesn't happen without the staff members who've supported, coached, directed, advised them. Jerica, Jessica, Stephen, Danielle, Anthony, Mr. Teacher Cody, right? Like, this doesn't happen without any of them. And I just want to say that this is what Freire family is capable of. This is what our high school does. And this is how we put on for the city. Time is funny. It's funny. I knew I'd be giving a speech tonight since like October, but I waited until like a night ago to write this jump because I'm a notorious procrastinator. Nah, seriously, I feel like I get my best work under pressure. But as I sat down to write, I couldn't help but reflect on the last 2 years. And the one thing that was like kept coming up was just like how blessed I was. I was in my home, and fortunately and unfortunately, right? Like, I was distracted by my sons battling, and my fiance was on the phone with her mom, and like that's not good for the writing process and my concentration. Because I kind of got like ADHD a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like a squirrel, anything to catch my attention. But all of that reminded me of just like how much I had to be thankful for. My health, my home, my family. Like when I was a kid, like this is what I used to dream of. I think Meek said it best. He said, I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to rhyme like that, to shine like this. I was reminded in a time when so many bad things are happening that like there are good things happening too. Things that we can celebrate. And in a way, we all have some blessings to count today. For one, if you're sitting in this room tonight, do not let it be lost on you that you survived a global pandemic. A global pandemic that saw 6 million people over the course of 2 years perish. Take a moment to think about that. 6 million people. But we're still here. And on this day, you have breath in your lungs and your heart is beating, right? And if that's not a blessing, I don't know what is. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like everything's been peachy because it hasn't, right? And I don't know about you, but these last 2 years have been the hardest 2 years of my life. And for my educators in the room, I know y'all can relate. Y'all know what type time it is. And it hasn't really felt like it's gotten better yet. The other day, I had a student walked up to me, Keon, y'all know Keon, 10th grader. He came up to me and he said something. He walked up, he said, Mr. Darren, I think God is testing me. I was like, kind of stunned because I wasn't expecting that. But I responded to Keon, I was like, I think you're right. I think God is testing us all. See, I've always believed that everything happens for a reason, that nothing is by accident, it's by design. That, you know, I may not have always known the plan, but I've had faith in the outcome. But that's a hard thing to do sometimes, right? Have faith. It's hard to have faith that things will get better when everything around you seems to be falling apart. It's hard to have faith in brighter days when the world seems to be on fire. It's hard to have faith that you can be whoever and whatever you want to be when everybody and everything around you tells you that you can't. It's hard to have faith when the ones that you love are no longer by your side. funny thing about faith, though, is that you only have to have a little bit. So for my church-going folks in here, you know what I'm saying? I know y'all know this one. It said if you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you will say to the mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you.
Preach, brother!
I want to tell you about the two things that have restored my faith. One is our kids, our students at Freire. The energy that they bring every day keeps me going. The other thing the last 2 years has brought that faith back to me, and that I will forever be grateful for, is the gift of fatherhood. Fatherhood is interesting, very interesting. My little man just turned 1 in January, and he's something else. I thought I had a house, but it's not mine anymore. Our house has become his playground, and I just tell people now it's not really my house; it's his house. I just live there, and my fiance and I, we pay the bills, keep the refrigerator stocked, and look, parents, I know y'all out here, y'all can relate. Coming to father has been one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It's nothing like it. God entrusted me to raise a whole human being from a young baby boy to a young man. The fatherhood made me take a long, hard look at the world and how I show up in it. This experience has kept me in a constant state of reflection. I started to think about the past, and my upbringing. I think about my mother and my father and all the things that they had to go through to ensure that my brothers and I had a better life than they did. My mom and my dad, they weren't perfect. They made their mistakes, and we had our run-ins as every parent and child does. But as I have looked back, I started to realize that they did the best job that they could with the information and resources that they had at the time. And for that, I will forever be grateful. Now that I have my own child, I still can't fathom what it was like for my mother to raise 3 Tasmanian devils in Philly, right? Me and my brothers, we wrecked shop. I'm talking about, we put more holes in walls than I think we literally kept Home Depot and Lowe's in business. No lie. I'm sorry, Mom. My mom's here. Hi, Mom. I think about my pops, right? And how he was the first person to teach me what it meant to be a big brother. How to take care of another human being. And every day that I look at my son, it's like looking in the mirror, watching myself grow up all over again. Think about my grandparents and their experience growing up and raising my parents, their children. My grandparents, they grew up in an era of American history where calling black people niggers to their face was commonplace. They attended segregated schools and were students while much of the civil rights movement was taking place. My grandparents were 7 or 8 when Emmett Till was lynched. They would watch Malcolm, Martin, Medgar, and Fred all be assassinated. So probably just like any other black parent during that time, and even some still today, they raised my parents to survive. This summer, I took a trip to Montgomery, Alabama, and before the summer, you would have never, ever caught me saying that I wanted to go to Montgomery, Alabama. The last place on earth that I would have wanted to be was in Montgomery, Alabama. But I went there this summer, and I went to the Equal Justice Initiative Museum, right, by Delaware's own Brian Stevenson, and I learned something. I thought I went in there knowing some stuff, but when I came out, I was surprised how much I didn't know. See, in Montgomery, Alabama, many of the historical landmarks still stand, so I had the opportunity to walk the path of my ancestors from the river that they got off the boats up the main street to the slave block that still stands in Montgomery, Alabama today. I got to go to the National Lynching Museum and see all of the black people who had been lynched in every county in America. And it got me going on this interesting journey of finding my own ancestry, right? So I did this thing. I went on Ancestry.com, and before you apply, Ancestry.com works. It's a real thing. And what I found blew me away. I was able to trace my lineage back to 1770. That's my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather and grandmother on my father's side, Jack and Kathy Rainey from Burke County, Georgia. I don't know about much of their life other than that they, were born in 1770 and 1778 and that, they were from Burke County, Georgia. But I do know that my father's side of the family comes from the western coast of Africa, Gabon. So it's very likely that Jack and Kathy, my great-grandparents, times 6, were enslaved. They could have been free black people during that time, but I may never know. I can imagine, though, that when Jack and Kathy had their son, my great-grandfather times 5, survival was their primary concern in a post-Revolutionary War Georgia. And as I look at my ancestry and our history, I recognize this theme of survival. So when Europe made their way into Africa and colonized our African ancestors and the Portuguese started shipping slaves across the Atlantic, we survived. During the Middle Passage, when millions of Africans were brought to the shores of Jamestown and many of those Africans didn't even make it to the shore alive, we survived. While enduring the brutality of slavery, where masters and overseers would viciously beat, whip, and brand black men and rape black women and tear black families apart, we survived. When southern slave states seceded and went to war to defend the institution of slavery, we fought, we were emancipated, and even though Reconstruction didn't really reconstruct anything, we survived. When waves of violence and terror across the South was used to suppress this newfound black political power of the free black people post-Reconstruction, which triggered the first wave of the Great Migration, we survived. When our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents were beaten by policemen and hosed down with fire hoses and bitten by attack dogs while marching for their civil rights, we survived. Even when our leaders, time and time again, are shot down and taken away from us for speaking out against the injustices in this country and standing up for our human rights, we've survived. There's an issue with survival, right? Is that when we aren't together and when we fight each other, it's impossible for us to survive. My 12th graders, they're reading Julius Caesar right now. And Julius Caesar coined the Latin phrase, divide et impere, which means divide your enemy so you can conquer them. And let me be clear, that the enemy never stopped working. Your ops at work right now. And I don't know about you, but to me, something is afoot. Because if you look in the news today and you really pay close attention, violence against our black women is on the rise and black women are dying. In 2020, at least 4 black women died every day. Our children are dying. Child is shot every hour of every day in America. And Wilmington, Delaware has led the country for cities that had teen shootings. Our history and our books are being banned from schools. Think about that. Last time they were banning books, I actually burned some books. I was seeing book burns. Last time that happened was in Nazi Germany. What's really going on? And our right to vote continues to be under attack. You know, I look at the news today and sometimes I can't tell if it's 2022 or 1939. If it's the 21st century or 1861. I look at these statistics and I think about the world that I want my son to grow up in. And I'm just going to be frank. This ain't it. There's got to be a better way for us to function as a people. There's got to be a better way for us to function as a society in this world, because if we're going to survive, we're going to have to do some things differently. Revolution is defined as a dramatic and wide-reaching change in the way something works or is organized, or the way in people's ideas are formed about it. If you look at history, revolutions have always been bloody in that they were brought about by violence and war. But before his death, Brother Malcolm X, in his Ballad of the Bullet speech, talks about a bloodless revolution through the exercise of our political power. In fact, if you listen to that speech and you didn't know it was from 1964, you would think he was talking about today. And while politics has its place, it's also time for a revolution of thought and action, black people. Changing our idea of what it means to be black and how we move as black people in this country. I swear, I think we've lived behind the curtain of white supremacy so long that some of us have become white supremacists. Some of us have been internalized anti-blackness, and I'm guilty. They say all skin folk ain't kinfolk. That's how I go. But now, more than ever, we need to understand our history and where we come from and who we are. Now, more than ever, we need to focus on healing from our trauma, breaking generational curses. Because, you know what I'm saying, you don't go through 400 years of oppression without having some type of trauma. And to be real, you don't go through 400 years of oppressing without having some type of trauma. Now, more than ever, we need to be unified. Brotherhood and sisterhood. Brothers taking care of brothers. Sisters taking care of sisters. Sisters taking care of brothers. Brothers taking care of sisters. Vice versa. And we got to recognize that no black life will matter until every black life matters. And I'm talking about my brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community. Now more than ever, we need to make sure that we are raising our children. Some of us out here let YouTube, IG, and TikTok do it for us. I ain't going to say nothing. You know who you are. But the first place that a child learns is at home. To my parents, what are we teaching our children? What example are we setting? Do we practice what we preach? Kids learn from watching what we do, not what we say. And we need to protect our black women at all costs. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. We need to protect our black women at all costs. Because none of us exist without a black woman. There's no human race without a black woman. So we need to protect, respect, and listen to our black women. Gotta put dollars back into our community, right? Like, we possess $1.3 trillion, that's a trillion with a T, in spending power. So imagine if we spent that in our community, what the community could look like. And while we invest in the community, we better learn how to defend it. We gotta learn how to defend our homes and our communities. All of these things are within our grasp as a people and as individuals. It's not just about us surviving anymore. After 400 years of slavery and oppression and going through what we've gone through in this country, it's time for us to thrive. Because that's the life that our children deserve. And as I step into the classroom every day, they give me faith that this can be a reality. Our kids have the answers. We just need to listen. If you really got to see their genius on a day-to-day, your faith would go from being the size of a mustard seed to the size of a mountain. And if faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain, then faith the size of a mountain can move the world. I'll wrap this up, right? But as you've seen tonight, music has always had its roots in blackness. Our way of showing our joy, our pain, our frustration, and our struggle. Music has long been our tool for communication. Right on the middle passage, kidnapped Africans sing songs to communicate with others from other tribes. Music would be used to help enslaved African Americans escape to freedom. Music has always had a special place in my heart. My father was a DJ. And growing up with my grandfather, I got all the Motown classics on Saturday morning when it was cleaning time. Y'all know what it is. Talk to me. And if you know me, you know Michael Jackson is the GOAT. You can't say nothing bad about him, so don't even try. Argue with your mama. Alright? But through his lyrics, he taught me something. He taught me that, they don't really care about us. And that in order for us to heal the world, we gotta keep the faith, because change starts with the man in the mirror. And Sam Cooke told me that change is gonna come someday. But until that change comes, Public Enemy taught me that I need to fight the power. And I gotta make sure that I spread love, because Biggie told me that's the Brooklyn way. The children are the future, is what Whitney told me. And because of Beyonce, I know that you can never go wrong with letting a black woman upgrade you. Aretha taught me that respect is a two-way street, and Kanye let me know that God will show me the way when the devil tries to break me down. So, like Chance said, I have to be ready for my blessing and my miracle. I learned that through dedication, hard work, plus patience, I'll run my victory lap, Nipsey. And Earth, Wind, and Fire taught me that a child is born with a heart of gold. And if we keep our head to the sky, that it's written in stone that we are the mighty people of the sun. In a moment, we're going to take some time to honor the past, the present, and the future by giving one of our very own their flowers while they're still here. But I want you to remember that tonight, what we're doing in this room and what's happening is revolutionary. To celebrate blackness is revolutionary. To love your blackness is revolutionary. To teach black kids is revolutionary. To love each other is revolutionary. In the words of the Chairman Fred Hampton, I want to hear all you say that I am a revolutionary. That I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. All the power to all the people.